Given the
Thank
difference
you,
in time.
Senator
Ayan.
Amy.
Yes, maraming salamat. At kung pwedeng ipaliwanag lamang ng ating Vice Presidente kung bakit sinasabi ninyo na kidnapping or extraordinary rendition ang sinasabi. At gusto rin natin malaman yung tungkol sa warrant. Kayo na lang ang mag-umpisa. Salamat.
Opo, Senator Amy, may I be allowed to read the statement?
Yes, please. Please do so.
Okay, thank you. Opo. Mga kababayan, on March 11, 2025, former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte was forcibly taken by the Philippine National Police upon his arrival at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport. He was brought to Villamor Air Base, a military air base, detained for nearly 12 hours, and then flown out of the country on a private jet to The Hague. All allegedly because of a warrant issued by the International Criminal Court. This was patently an illegal arrest. This constitutes extraordinary rendition. A Filipino citizen, a former president, was taken into custody without a valid warrant issued by a Philippine court, without due process, and without any legal basis under our laws. The Constitution is clear. Section 2, Article 3 of our Constitution explicitly states, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures of whatever nature or for any purpose shall be inviolable, and no search warrant or warrant of arrest shall issue except upon probable cause to be determined personally by the judge after examination under oath or affirmation of the complainant and the witnesses he may produce, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. This means that for an arrest to be lawful, it must be carried out pursuant to a warrant issued by a Filipino judge of a Philippine court. Nasaan po ang warrant of arrest na inisyu ng hukuman ng Pilipinas? Wala. Without a valid warrant from a Philippine court, this was at best a warrantless arrest. Under the rules of court, warrantless arrests are only permitted in 3 instances: in flagrante delicto, hot pursuit, and escaped prisoner. None of these circumstances applied to the case of the former president. So, what was the legal basis of his arrest? The authorities acted solely on an ICC warrant, a document that has no legal effect in the Philippines unless reviewed and validated by a Philippine court. In fact, even assuming without conceding that the government itself wished to recognize and enforce the ICC's warrant, it still violated the Rome Statute itself. Even by ICC standards, the former president should have been brought before a Philippine judge to determine the validity of his arrest before it was handed over to a foreign court. Under Article 59 of the Rome Statute, a state party which has received a request for arrest and surrender shall immediately take steps to arrest the person in question in accordance with its laws and the provisions of Part 9, and shall bring that person before the competent judicial authority in that state. Yan ang sinasabi ko paulit-ulit nung nasa labas ako ng gate ng Villamor Air Base. And why was this not done? If they claim to abide by international law and standards, then why did they conveniently choose to ignore this provision? The fact remains that we are no longer a state party to the Rome Statute. We are no longer a member of the ICC. In fact, in a letter dated December 15, 2023, the President himself wrote to me, with respect to your concerns, legal or otherwise, on the investigation to be conducted by the International Criminal Court into the previous administration's war on drugs, I remain steadfast in my resolve that the jurisdiction of the ICC over the Republic of the Philippines after the effectivity of its withdrawal therefrom is very much in question. To this end, this government will not assist the ICC in any way, shape, or form. So if the government itself has declared Non-cooperation with the ICC, why did the PNP violate this very policy and enforce a foreign warrant? Even granting for the sake of argument that we have some duty to cooperate with either the ICC or Interpol, does that duty override the fundamental rights of every Filipino enshrined in our Constitution? What happened on March 11, 2025 is not just about one man. It is about all of us. It is about the country. If a former president can be taken without due process, what stops them from doing the same to any other Filipino? Therefore, we must dare to ask more questions. Under whose authority did the PNP act? Why did they enforce a foreign warrant without the Philippine court order? Why didn't they at least bring PRRD before a judge, as required by the Rome Statute itself? Even more disturbing is the silence of the armed forces of the Philippines. Why did the AFP stand idly by while a former commander-in-chief was taken from a military base under questionable circumstances? How could they allow a foreign tribunal to override on our constitutional guarantees? We have now lost a former president. I pray that we do not lose the country next. Your Honor, Senators Cayetano and Marcos and other senators present, alam naman natin lahat at alam nila na mali ang ginawa nila. Ginawa nila yon just to demolish political opponents. This is all about politics. The administration is using government resources, the ICC, to demolish the opposition. Wala na tayong argument. Mali ang ginawa. Ang tanong ngayon, ano ang gagawin natin para maibalik ang dating Pangulo sa Pilipinas? Kasi nag-iisa ako ngayon dito na gumagawa ng paraan para maibalik ang ating dating Pangulo sa ating bayan. Thank you.
Maraming salamat sa ating Vice Presidente at hindi kayo nag-iisa. Lahat tayo ay naghahanap ng solusyon sa napakakomplikadong pangyayari. Ano sa palagay mo yung nakita ninyong ICC warrant? Kailan ba ipinakita? May sinabi si Counsel o Attorney Medialdea na hindi daw pinakita kay Pangulo Duterte hanggang sa kahuli-hulihan at redacted form pa daw. Tama po ba yun?
As Honorable Senator Marcos, ang nangyari kasi, merong ICC warrant. It was diffused to Interpol. It was given to Philippine authorities. Hindi siya nagkaroon ng red notice. Kaya yung ibang bansa, hindi nila alam o wala silang notice na merong ganong warrant. Ang nangyari, ICC, Interpol binigay sa Philippine authorities. And the Philippine authorities or the Philippine National Police, in-implement nila yung warrant diretso doon sa akusado, hindi nila dinala sa korte natin dyan sa ating bansa.
Tama po. At yan ang pinag-uusapan namin kanina ni Executive Director Alcantara ng Transnational Crime na ang pinadala lamang ay isang diffusion. Ito ang kauna-unahang pagkakataon na ang warrant of arrest was honored by a member state. Samantalang diffusion pa lang to, wala pang compliance review, wala pang ibinibigay sa secretariat ng Interpol, walang task force yung Interpol at walang kaalam-alam yung commissioner ng Interpol. Ang sabi nga ng Interpol, si Presidente Duterte ay hindi wanted ng Interpol. Wanted daw siya ng ICC. Pinadala lang daw sa kanila. As a matter of fact, under Article 97, Section 4 of Interpol's own rules on the processing of data, it is very clear that there are so many requirements before any action can be taken. kung pwede, ipakita natin ang itsura ng isang diffusion versus isang red notice. Ibang-iba po yun. Ni walang red notice at yung diffusion, parang sabi nga ni VP, parang tinimbre lang sa mga kasama sa Interpol ng mga miyembro. Hindi dinaan sa mismong review. So, nais natin pag-usapan at tanungin kay Executive Director. Tama po ba yun? Diffusion is something not yet verified per the articles on processing data. Tama po ba yun? Kasi yan ang rules ng Interpol, hindi po ba?
Ang diffusion po ay sa Article 97 ng Rules on Processing of Data is a standardized request
Tama.
to arrest, detain, or restrict movement
Right.
of accused. Ito,
Tama, pero hindi
Tama
pa
po.
hindi pa siya verified, hindi pa siya naimbestiga at hindi pa nailalagay bilang opisyal. Wala pang task force,
Tama
wala
po
pang
yan, tama po.
compliance review.
Pero hindi po ibig sabihin noon na wala siyang value.
Pero
Pareho po
mismo yung Interpol, sinasabi po sa atin na first time daw na yung member state agad-agad in-acknowledge. Wala pa namang kaalam-alam. Ang mismong Interpol Secretariat, walang kamuang-muang kasi between states lang to, ICC lang at Interpol.
whether it is a red notice or wanted person diffusion, obligado po tayong mag-comply. Hence, our job in the NCB is to distribute the diffusion notice.
Nandyan, pinapakita natin yung red notice sample versus yung diffusion order. Ibang-iba po, di ba, yung
Magkaiba
itsura?
po, magkaiba po.
Magkaiba,
Pero-
yung kay Arnie Teves yan, tsaka ito kay PRRD, ibang-iba po.
Magkaiba po.
Talagang hindi sila.
Magkaiba
So,
po.
admitido po ninyo, walang red notice.
Yung red notice po, wala po siyang red notice.
Walang dumating,
merong tinatawag po na
O, tama.
Red
so,
diffusion.
kung ganun, sinasabi, tulad ng sinabi ni VP, maobligasyon ang ating pamahalaan mag-cooperate, tumulong sa lahat ng request. Yung request, hindi naman ang galing sa Interpol Pinapaliwanag nga ng Interpol. Hindi naman amin wanted yan. Ang sinasabi, Philippines is obliged to cooperate when in fact it came from ICC. Paulit-ulit tayo kanina sa ICC, walang jurisdiction dito sa Pilipinas. Ba't natin kinikilala? FPRRD was not wanted by Interpol. It was neither verified or approved. Hanapin mo sa buong database ng Interpol, walang lumalabas. Hanggang ngayon, it's not there. Read out the email address from the letter. Nakita mo yung letter? ICC ang nakasulat. Walang Interpol kahit sa mismong diffusion. Anong obligasyon ng Pilipinas? Kapag hindi tayo nag-comply sa isang diffusion, anong mangyayari sa atin? Hindi na tayo bahagi ng Interpol? Paparusahan tayo? May parusa po ba?
Not necessarily. Hindi po ganon.
Kapag diffusion, what will happen?
Gaya po na nasabi ko kanina, ang diffusion po at requesting for looking for wanted persons, pareho lang po na yung red notice.
Hindi po pareho yun. Ang
hindi lang po siya-
liwanag nito.
ang pagkakaiba po niya-
Kababasa mo lang ng Article 97, pambihira ka naman,
Opo.
sir.
May pagkakaiba nga po
kaya
kasi
nga.
yung red notice has to be processed by the
Pero di ba yung kay
notices.
Congressman Arnie Teves, red notice na. Ayan, dinadaan pa rin sa proseso ng maliit at mahirap na bansa katulad ng Timor-Leste. Ayaw pa rin nila pumayag. Dahil ang sabi nila, dadaan muna ito sa korte natin. Ngayon tayo, lumundag tayo sa diffusion. Ano bang commitment natin? Anong mangyayari sa atin? Sinabi na natin, ICC has no jurisdiction. Tapos, ICC warrant has no effect. Tama ba yun? Di ano ngayon yung Interpol? May obligasyon ba tayo sa Interpol? Diffusion pa lang to.
Obligado po. Obligado.
Bakit obligado? Anong mangyayari kung hindi tayo sumunod?
Katulad din po yan ng mga ibang red notices na hindi natin nakukuha, but obligado rin po tayo.
Ano nga mangyayari? Anong parusa? Papaluin ba tayo? Tatanggalin ba tayo sa Interpol? Iisnabi na tayo ng buong kapulisan ng buong mundo?
Hindi ko po masasagot yung gagawin ng Interpol sa atin, but masasabi ko po we have to comply with both the diffusion and the red notice.
You have to.
We need to.
At
we
the
need
risk
to.
of what sanction?
We need to. We need to. Yan po yung we
Okay.
exert our maximum effort to comply with those requests.
Nakakagulat lang po dahil kasi eto nga may obligasyon daw pero diffusion lang to at sabi ng Interpol first time daw nga nila na diffusion pa lang lumundag na at inaresto na kagad. Pero parang hindi naman to biglaan kasi General Marbil may memo kayo ng March 10, di po ba? May memo kayo sa kapulisan na mag-mobilize na agad-agad. Libo-libong pulis ang pinamobilize kahit hindi pa ninyo alam na may warrant. Sabi ninyo, hindi ninyo alam Asan yung memo? Nariyan kanina, di ba? Aalala po ba ninyo yung memo na yan?
But anyway, ma'am,
Hindi, yung memo, tama po ba yan o mali yung binigay sa amin? 10 po ang nakasulat na date. Tama po ba yan?
ma'am, tama po yan, no? Madam Chair, no? Ang preparation namin, although sabi ko nga, narinig po namin na there will be possible na lumabas po yung warrant based on sa mga dumadating na news, it's standard procedure po ng PNP na mag-prepare po in case that's a part of our planning process.
Libo-libo ang minobilize na kapulisan, gumastos ang buong pamahalaan para lamang sa isang chismis galing sa Hong Kong. Sabi po ni Secretary John Vic na chismis lang naman ang umabot sa kanila. Hindi naman sila nakatanggap ng anumang katibayan
Ma'am, it's a standard, Madam Chair, it's a standard procedure ng Philippine National Police kay chismis. So hindi, we have to prepare and plan kung ano pong mangyayaring eventualities po.
7,000 po? Base sa chismis? Wala kayong
No, we don't have any record ng 7,000. I believe
Yun ang
it,
pinagmalaki sa dyaryo. Hanggang dyaryo lang naman kami.
Ma'am, wala po kami nilalabas ng ganong karaming tao. I guess it's more of pinapilaki. But I doubt with this number, ito lang po yung nilabas po namin tao.
Okay. So, ilan ang minobilize ninyo kung sinasabi niyo labis-labis naman ang 7,000? Sa tingin ko, labis-labis. Isipin mo, chismis lang.
Ma'am, based on the numbers, more or less, it's a total of 156. Yun lang po yung ano namin. But sabi ko nga doon, it's just a normal procedure.
May mga memo pa na sumunod dyan. Alam naman ninyo yun. Ito lang yung pinakauna.
Madam Chair, I have to check po yung numbers ng tao natin.
Bakit sinabi 7,000? Nagulat naman kami. Okay lang, pero mabalik dito sa ICC warrant, walang red notice at pati yung Timor-Leste, inisnab yung red notice, ang atin lang diffusion. Sa diffusion, ang liwaliwanag, kailangan extradition, kailangan in conformity with national laws. I think we've established that and without pounding it into the ground, can we ask now, ipakita muna natin ang video ni Secretary Remulla or yung transcript dun sa budget hearing po nung nakaraang taon. Ang liwaliwanag po at maganda po ang paliwanag ni Secretary Remulla Boying. Opo.
But when it comes to them going into the country, kung gusto nila pumasok dito upang manghuhuli at magpasagawa ng warrant na kanila pong na-issue po siguro ng ICC pagdating ng panahon, kailangan po itong dumaan sa ating court system. Ito po ay kinakailangan ng isang action to enforce a warrant, action to enforce a judgment. Kailangan po dumaan yan sa ating court system. Kaya hindi ho namin pakikialaman kasi yan po trabaho na ng Interpol kung talagang gusto nilang habulin yung tao na nasasaktal. Yung sabihin natin, nag-issue po na warrant of arrest ng ICC, gusto mong enforce ng Interpol dito, pero para ho ito ay matuloy at hindi ho magkaroon ng kasuhan, kinakailangan pumunta muna sila sa korte natin. There's some things that the Supreme Court would be looking at if what was alleged in the crime would have happened if we were still members of the ICC. That is one of the things that can be of importance to the courts when they do enforce a warrant or if they will actually allow a warrant to be served in our country from an international tribunal. Ang problema nga ho ay meron kong sinasabi yung mga kaibigan natin na well-meaning naman. May 200 families daw na gustong magreklamo pero ang hawak daw nila 8. Pero sa 8, ang makakausap nyo 2 lang. Tapos yung 2 pa, wala pang ibibigay na totoong ebidensya. napakahirap po talaga maghabol. Ang ano nga yung nag-hearing po ang Human Rights Committee ng Kongreso tungkol dito. At ang lumalabas po talaga, yung mga nangyari po kasing EJK nung panahon na yon, wala hong police report Walang police blotter, wala hong record. Kaya napakahirap hong maghabol talaga.
Ayun. Napakaliwanag at napakaganda ng paliwanag ni Secretary Bonjing na sa ICC man yan, Interpol man yan, dadaan yan sa korteng Pilipino.
Ma'am, ano yan Ang general rule talaga, pag may foreign judgment, you have to enforce it in court. However, ito hong nangyaring ito, ang ginamit po namin dito, Section 17 ng Republic Act
9851.
9851. Pwede ko hong basahin, ma'am? Can I read the provision
I think
into
you
the
can
record?
put it on...
Into the record? But may I read it into the record, ma'am? Thank you. In the interest of
Andito naman
justice,
sa atin
in the interest of justice, the relevant Philippine authorities may dispense with the investigation or prosecution of a crime punishable under this act if another court or international tribunal is already conducting the investigation or undertaking the prosecution of such crime. Instead, the authorities may surrender or extradite suspected or accused persons in the Philippines to the appropriate international court, if any, or to another state pursuant to the applicable extradition laws and treaties. That is Section 17 of Republic Act 9851. So
Yes.
ito po yung option na sinasabi ko kanina.
Yes, at yan yung pinag-uusapan natin kay Attorney Medina. Baka ibig ninyo mag-comment kasi mahaba po yung sinulat ninyo tungkol dyan. 9851, Section 17, at saka si Senator Cayetano. Unahin po natin na unang ma-recognize si Attorney Medina lang po. Lahat tayo, kabisado natin yung 9851, alam natin yung Section 17, para rin yung Rome Statute, Article 59, sa panahong to na memorize na nating lahat. Attorney po.
Thank you for the opportunity, Madam Chair. And with all due respect to our hardworking, brilliant Secretary of Justice, I beg to disagree purely on legal grounds. Again, constitutional, doctrine of constitutional supremacy. Whatever right that is granted by the Constitution cannot be diminished or be in derogation, cannot be diminished or lessened or stripped away by any statute. So if the Constitution guarantees that if a person is to be expelled from the Philippine territory by whatever means, a lawful order of the court is required. That grant that grant of the Constitution, that protection of the Constitution cannot be lessened by any statute. So that in that case, 9851. So we have to interpret 9851 in accordance with the broad protection of the Constitution, which means that if you will surrender without judicial proceedings, that would be a violation. So there will be only a very narrow instance, there will be limited instances when surrender can be valid without judicial process. Yun lang po. Maraming salamat.
Senator Cayetano, I think you wish to add something.
When the SOJ was speaking, yung una kong temptation was to say that, as you said, no, evolution, legal theory, and for the public, no, to be fair, diba? That happens when lawyers meet, diba? Na ito yung una kong theory, ito yung application, especially if there's no jurisprudence na prevailing, and even if there's jurisprudence, you can challenge that, of course, but the law enforcers have to follow prevailing jurisprudence. So kanina, what I was tempted to do is to ask you that, you know, when tempers are down and emotions are way, let's see which theory is better, no? Whether you need a foreign, when a foreign judgment or foreign arrest warrant from a foreign court or different countries here, whether we need court order or pwedeng surrender. Having said that, when I was thinking about it, what about, sir, this situation? So let's say that law authorizes the government to surrender a Philippine citizen. But if that Philippine citizen is asking for his day in court in a Philippine court. Kasi kung, again, hindi ko nakita yung buong video, but nakita ko yung part I think this is more from the videos na pinost allegedly taken by Kitty Duterte, di ba? But I just saw portions eh. So isang portion doon, nung una sinabi kay former President Duterte na sa Hague ka dadalhin, sabi niya, patayin niyo na lang ako or you'll have to kill me. I'm paraphrasing. No, but ang point ko, if a person says that, that means he's disputing it. So my point, assuming for the sake of argument, as the state, the Philippine government, can choose Article 17 to surrender, does that take away from the person being arrested the legal remedy of questioning the action of the executive before Philippine courts?
The option is always there if it can be done. But under the circumstances, it could not be done.
So no effort was made to get any warrant from a Filipino court.
I think that they were, the whole time that everything was happening until the evening, there were even attempts to show fake orders of the courts saying that there is a TRO on the action of the PNP.
Yes,
I believe
fake
that
news.
this was being showed by ES Medialdea. Am I correct, General Torre? Yes. ES Medialdea was showing them text messages that there was a TRO. So they were attempting, they were trying their judicial option. But we already decided, it was already decided that
I think that's not
that Section
relevant,
17
Secretary.
of Republic Act 9851 will be the one used, the surrender part.
May I
Sige.
clarify that, just that part,
Yes,
no?
Senator Cayetano.
So we agree, di ba, na yun, ICC or whoever may, or extradition, or basta under that law, no? Dumating dito, inarrest, sabi nung Pilipinong inaresto, okay, no problem, I'll face court there, dalhin niyo ako doon. So, walang problema yung surrender, di ba? Kasi he or she surrendered to government surrendered under the definition ng surrender under that law, Section 17. But sabi mo, what was your exact word, sir? If possible or if... ang sabi mo, nung tinanong ko SOJ na, can that person have the opportunity to question before Philippine courts?
If it's done, it can be done.
Yes.
Some people have been managed to get court orders in a matter
Yes.
of hours.
But
Only in this case, wala akong nangyari.
Yes, but yun nga ang point ko. Isn't the better rule, we give them reasonable time to do that? So that we don't deprive...
Ma'am, excuse me lang kasi there is a pending petition for habeas corpus in the Supreme Court.
Okay.
We might be stepping already on the,
So having said
the ground
that,
that we have to
So we leave
take
it at
next week.
that. We have no desire to be
Yeah.
sub judice. Thank you.
Madam
For
Chair,
the
can I
reminder. Yes.
just say this? Sir, I will respect that because nga mabigat di ba? Emotionally, legally. But can you study that part? Just for future cases, di ba?
Of course.
And when we say study, the defense lawyer will say 30 days, 6 months is reasonable. Of course, the law enforcement has to do its job. So, in case we come up with a guidance, you could return it to us, but hindi kami magpasa ng batas. But I'd answer the same na sinabi mo ngayon. If I file a draft bill defining that, baka sabihin ng court, see, you admit na pwede pala. So I also don't want to somehow interfere or influence the Supreme Court in this decision. But may I just put it at your table na ano yung reasonable for a Filipino citizen to go to court in case nga this happens. And it's valid nga kasi nga if the ICC issues whether it's Senator Bato or any of our generals or any member of the AFP, I'd like them to be able to go to court to question whatever identity, validity of etc.
Maybe, Your Honor, we have to look at the perspective of how long this took for the ICC to come up with a warrant. This did not happen overnight. I believe that even Senator Bato has told you that he has received written interrogatories coming from the ICC. He's being given his day to explain whatever side he has on the ICC controversy.
Kaya nga.
Senator Bato himself has answered that. I'm sure the former president was given the chance by the ICC. I mean, I don't think that 125 countries would agree to bully somebody and not give him a chance to explain. I
Madam
think
Chair.
that it goes beyond convention
Senator
that we will allow this to happen.
Yes, Secretary
Chair.
and Senator Cayetano.
I think I'd like to agree to disagree with you on that part. No, kasi yung questions ko later on are factual. Kasi if you look, I don't know if it was the Solgen, we asked the ICC to pause, to stop so, di ba? And number two, iba kasi yung sa akin na mag-explain ka sa Philippine court at mag-explain ka doon. And lastly, sir, I get your point, 125 countries. But President Trump, the US President just said na panay politika ang ICC, sinanction niya and everything. So I can also make the same agreement. US is the greatest country in the world, next to the Philippines, of course. The US is the land of the free. The US ganyan. So if the US thinks the ICC, so I'm respecting your opinion na fair ang ICC 25 etc. No. However, yun nga ang point ko. The president is almost 80 years old. If the case take out jurisdiction, if the case takes about 6 years, he'll be 86. If it takes 8 years, 88. Kung si Enrile yon, okay lang. When he gets there at 80, he'll be out at 88. He's 101 years old. I'm not saying okay lang ipadala si Enrile. I'm saying he's blessed with longevity and di ba sa LEDAC naglalabi pa, nagano ko anong tingin niyan tama. But my point is, sir, yung ako personally naghahalo na yung legal at emotion pag sinabing nandun na siya, dun siya magpaliwanag. Kasi nga Pilipino na pinadala doon. But I'll agree to disagree with you there and stop there, Madam.
Maraming salamat at nais ko lang balikan itong sinasabi natin. Kung talagang nagpursige ang Pilipinas na pumunta sa korte dito sa lokal, sa Philippine Court, may idadagdag yata si VP dyan sa komentaryo tungkol dito kung bakit hindi pinadaan pa sa Filipino Court. Samantalang marami naman tayong korte, ang ating mga huwes ay magagaling. Yes, please, VP po.
Yes, thank you, Senator Marcos. Ang gusto ko lang gawin is, unang-una, meron kasing document galing sa ating Pangulo papunta sa akin na sulat, no, na lumabas dahil kinuha siya sa isang lawyers group chat. Hindi namin alam kung sino ang kumuha at inilabas siya. Gusto ko lang na isubmit ito as part of the records of this hearing kasi as a Filipino and as a public official, binasa ko yung ang ating protesta doon sa ICC at yung desisyon ng ICC. At nakita ko na wala talagang jurisdiction. Pero alam ko na merong ginagawang investigation dahil nabibigyan kami ng data or information galing sa mga law offices na ginagamit dyan sa loob ng Pilipinas sa pag-interview ng witnesses. Kaya kinausap ko, unang-una, ang Secretary of Justice noon. At dahil hindi paiba-iba yung sagot niya sa mga tanong ko, ang ginawa ko ay dumiretso ako sa Pangulo. Kaya yon, nabigyan ako ng sagot ng Pangulo at gusto kong basahin ang kabuuan ng sulat. Nakalagay dito, Dear Vice President Duterte, this is reference to your letter of 4 December 2023 as well as similar letters sent to members of the Cabinet, namely Secretary Jesus Crispin C. Remulla of the Department of Justice and Solicitor General Menardo Guevara on even date. With respect to your concerns, legal or otherwise, on the investigation to be conducted by the ICC into the previous administration's war on drugs, I remain steadfast in my resolve that the jurisdiction of the ICC over the Philippines after the effectivity of its withdrawal therefrom is very much in question. To this end, this government will not assist the ICC in any way, shape, or form. I am certain that all the members of my cabinet, including yourself, will echo my views on this matter. As it is my sworn duty, I will continue to defend and assert the sovereignty of the Republic of the Philippines at all times. Ngayon, naririnig ko po, sinasabi ng ating Secretary of Justice na mabibigyan siya ng panahon na makasagot sa loob ng ICC. And that is clearly the Philippine government's position that there is cooperation with ICC. So kinikilala na nila ngayon yung jurisdiction ng ICC na wala naman kasi talaga. Because this is an extraordinary case of extraordinary rendition. At pangalawa, Senator Amy, gusto ko na sumagot ang Armed Forces of the Philippines kung bakit nila pinayagan na mangyari ito. Because under the law, the Presidential Security Command is in charge of the security of former presidents. So bakit nila hinayaan na mangyari ito sa isang dating Pangulo ng ating bayan? And finally, I request that I leave the meeting, the hearing, because I have to prepare for meetings as well here this morning at 9 a.m. Thank you very much, our honorable senators, mga kababayan.
Maraming salamat, VP. Maitatanong lang, kailan yung date nung sinasabi mong sulat mula sa Pangulo natin?
Ang date ng kanyang sulat ay December 15, 2023.
2023. Iba pang sulat pala ito. At maraming salamat at hihingin natin ang sagot ng ating AFP tungkol sa PSG at yung okasyon sa Villamor. Maraming salamat, VP. Kung may mga iba pang mga hearing, sana makadalo ka rin. Thank you.
Opo, salamat.
Okay, I think that's posited to Secretary Chodoro. Nawala
Yes,
na
ma'am.
yata si General Larida.
No, ma'am, I will answer all the questions regarding the Armed Forces of the Philippines. As we said, we were deputized to support the Philippine National Police. And it is part of the constitutional duty of the armed forces to follow processes. And if we were to question those orders, even under color of law, under color of right, then it would amount to the armed forces acting unilaterally on its own, which is anathema to civilian authority over the military. As we said, our jurisdiction ends in providing support to the Philippine National Police. And with respect to the Presidential Security Command, that is a highly secure unit, and operational security is strictly followed. That ends my response, Your Honor.
Yes, nakakapagtaka lang kasi facility ninyo yung Villamor. Ang inimbita namin yung Air Force. Wala po rito. Bakit?
Your Honor, because of the fact that we will not go into operational details, and I made the call that the armed forces will answer in the light of our supporting role and not principal role to the Philippine National Police.
Yes, pero narito si General Larida. Anong nais niya yung sabihin?
Madam Chair, I defer to the wisdom of the Honorable Secretary of National Defense. That is, the AFP's role is to support the Philippine National Police. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Kahit sa Villamor mismo. Kahit sa lugar ninyo mismo, kampo ninyo eh.
Yes, sir. Yes, Madam Chair.
Ganun. O sige, ganun lang sagot. So, okay. Balikan po natin itong enforceability ng ICC warrant. Sa pakiwari ba ninyo yung nasa konstitusyon natin, yung sinasaad ulit-ulit ng ating Professor Medina, Article 3, Section 2, na kinakailangan may arrest warrant issued upon discovery of probable cause by a judge, a Filipino judge. Sa palagay ba ninyo, yung judge dito kasama na yung ICC judge?
Ma'am, we invoke the sub-judice rule, ma'am. We cannot answer any more questions relating to the arrest.
So sa palagay ninyo, yung ICC, does it have any judicial power in the Philippines? Kasi di ba yung judicial power sa atin, ang klaro-klaro naman, Article 8, ang liwanag, di ba? Supreme Court and such lower courts, di ba?
Recognized by the Republic Act 9851.
Anong recognized ng 9851? Wala naman sinabi doon tungkol sa judicial.
International Tribunal.
Sorry?
International Tribunal, ma'am. Can I read the provision again into the record?
No, we've read it and
Yes.
you're all very, very familiar.
Yes.
Opo. So, ang sinasabi nyo, ICC hindi po kasama. Yun lang, yes or no lang po.
Basta sinabi yung International Tribunal, it belongs to that class, ma'am.
Sa palagay ninyo, International Tribunal, sakop na yung ICC. Kahit
Sakop po, sakop. Ito, malinaw po eh.
Pero
Oh.
hindi na tayo member, di ba? Sabi ng DFA.
Hindi ho naman yung membership ang pinag-uusapan dito eh. Ang pinag-uusapan po dito, crimes against humanity. International humanitarian law.
Pero nagkasundo na tayo.
Murder po ito, murder, executions, extrajudicial killings. Ito po yung sinasakop ng IHL mo.
Sige. Balik tayo sa Prosecutor General kasi agree to disagree na naman tayo. Even if Secretary Remulla in his budget hearing asserted that a local court action was necessary in order to enforce an ICC warrant, you proceeded to take part in the serving of the warrant and arresting PRRD. Andito ba yung prosecutor natin?
Ma'am, he had to attend to something very important in the office. That's why I was the one who
So you
volunteered to go
confirm
there.
that even though there was no local court action, you went ahead with this anyway?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, of course you can.
Confirm. But ma'am, can we lessen our discussion on this because it's sub judice, ma'am. It's a subject of a habeas corpus case in the Supreme Court, which the children of the former President Duterte themselves filed.
Yes, we're well aware of the consolidated cases. Was this warrant presented to PRRD at the time he was arrested? Kasi may katanungan, di ba? At may sinasabi si Attorney Medialdea na hindi daw pinakita sa Pangulo. Pwede bang may sumagot? Si General Torre, mukhang kabisado niya. Siya yung nasa video eh.
Again, ma'am?
Hindi. Yung warrant nung natanggap ninyo yung warrant, naipakita ba yung ICC warrant sa Pangulo? Kay Pangulo Duterte? Pinakita ba ninyo sa kanya? Nung inaresto siya, di ba, obligado kayo magpakita ng warrant.
Yes, ma'am.
Anong pinakita nyo?
Right at the tube, ma'am, the Yusik Nikiti, together with PG Fadulyon, together with me, gave them the electronic copy through retired General Monteagudo, ma'am, because that's their condition. They don't recognize
Tal or yung anchors or foundations of the Philippine Constitution, also from the U.S. Constitution, is Section 1 of the Bill of Rights that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall any person be denied equal protection of law. Agree, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So, when we arrest someone, we're depriving him of liberty.
Yes, Your Honor.
When we deport someone by virtue of a warrant arrest, let's say like in the case of Congressman Mark Jimenez extradition with the U.S., we're depriving him of liberty.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So when we, I don't know, alleged lawful arrest, let me just use it that way while we're determining of former President Duterte and then putting him to a plane to Hague, we deprived him of liberty.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So the next question, was he given due process? So ang sinasabi po ng government, there are two ways, extradition or surrender.
Yes.
Okay. And tama po ba, this law that we're invoking now was passed before we ratified yung ICC?
Yes. Mhm.
This law was prior to the ICC, no? Judicial Notice, Republic Act
9851.
9851. No? I mentioned that because in the interpellation of, I think it was Senator Gordon and Senator Loren, and then meron din Senator Miriam, it was made clear doon na kailangan magpasan pa ng ibang legislation for the pag mag-a-arrest. Ayan, no? Senator Legarda, so even if the executive ratifies it and we concur on its ratification, and we pass this proposed measure that we are contemplating now, is it not enough to implement the Rome Statute? Mali lang yung records, wrong statute nakalagay. Pero mukhang tama din na wrong talaga eh. Pero Rome Statute dapat to. Okay. Senator Gordon, yes, it is just like the VFA all over again. It is not enough, Mr. President, because there will be a mechanism upon which we would have to surrender certain nationals who have committed war crimes or violations against covered by the statute that we have not to be met, no? So meaning, if you take judicial notice of this, while we were passing this law later on, the intent of the legislature was to pass a mechanism for surrender. You can dispute that later on, sir, and look into it. I don't think we'll finish everything naman today, di ba? Some of this we really have to also consult everyone, no? But having said that, I think the point of the senators there was, klaro kasi extradition. So sa extradition, mako-comply mo yung due process sa Section 1 because you will, tama ba ako, you will be brought before a judge.
Yes po.
They will show you the extradition notice and the other papers like the warrant of arrest, and the person being arrested can answer before the judge. Tama
Yes
po ba?
po.
Okay. So let me go to Section 2. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures of whatever nature and for whatever purpose shall be inviolable, no? So, i-google na lang natin inviolable, but tama ba? Basically, you cannot violate this.
Opo.
Okay. And no search warrant or warrant of arrest shall issue except upon probable cause to be determined personally by the judge and after examination under oath or affirmation of the complainant and the witness he may produce, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or things to be seized. Okay. Mas bata ka ba sa akin? 1970 ako pinanganak.
Matanda na po ako.
So,
Yeah.
halos magka-age tayo.
Hindi po, mas matanda po ako.
Mas matanda ka ng konti. Sorry, mas mukha kang bata sa akin. But, no, the point is, because medyo middle kaming pinanganak noon, I think mas ka-age ko si Gilbert, no? So, ang alam ko lang, by the time kasi I got to law school, 87, 97 ako graduate, 10 years na tong constitution na to eh. This was all a reaction to martial law, where they had different kinds of warrant of arrest, including yung ASO and whatever, which were all legal during that time, ha? I'm not judging that time. I'm just saying, both under martial law, the former constitution, jurisprudence, going from the Spanish to the Japanese period, to the American period, to our independence. So in the wisdom of the Filipino people, pinasa to na except, ang alam ko lang exception, there may be one or two, but alam ko exception yung sinabi mong deportation, because when they come in, hindi na kailangan pumunta sa judge, immigration officials can deport or arrest them, di ba? Pero otherwise, hindi pwedeng si SOJ, DILG, hindi pwedeng si Secretary, no matter how brilliant Secretary Gibo is, when he's in the military can only arrest ata their personnel, no, under certain codes, di ba? But he cannot issue a warrant of arrest, di ba? So the safeguard of each and every Filipino sa due process is you're brought before a judge, and due process is one, yung nakalagay dito, that you're informed about the nature of, the words is in, 12. Yan. Sa Section 12, any person under investigation for the commission of offense shall have the right to be informed of his right to remain silent and have competent and independent counsel preferably of his choice. Yan po, General Torre, yung Miranda rights na binasa mo kay former President Duterte. Tama po, no? I didn't see the whole video eh. I just heard SILG said that there's a whole video, but I only saw sa internet, pero nakita ko binasahan. Okay. Pero nakalagay dito, okay. If he cannot afford, he can be given a counsel. So may question ako later on dyan. Okay, but on Section 14, ito. In all criminal prosecution, the accused shall be presumed innocent until contrary is proved and shall enjoy the right to be heard by himself and counsel. Ito importante. To be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation against him and then to have a speedy trial, no? So meaning, the more you have to explain yung cause at yung nature kung foreign because you're not familiar with their laws compared sa laws natin. So for example, in the case of Mark Jimenez, he questioned the extradition request before a Philippine judge. I googled it, nakalagay pa nga doon. Nagrereklamo siya, mas atat pa daw yung Pilipino na extradite siya kaso sa Amerikano. I don't even know it's true, no? But my question is, sir, so is it your proposition that if we surrender without an arrest from a Philippine judge, we're denying him due process? That's my words based on Section 1, but feel free to use your words.
Thank you, Senator. Yes, I agree. Basically, the principle involved here is due process. I think a lot of commentators have already pointed out the requirement of adherence to the principle of due process. So whatever it is that the government is action is taking that would deprive a person of life, liberty, or process or property, it has to go through a certain process. It's called procedural due process. If it's a crime, it's a criminal due process. It's a procedural due process requires opportunity to be heard, reasonable opportunity to be heard by and in an impartial or before an impartial tribunal.
And in criminal law, both procedural and substantial due process are essential. Not only
Yes,
important,
yes.
but are essential,
Yes,
diba?
yes,
Because
yeah.
in let's say, other cases, kung magkamali ng konti sa procedure, it's repairable. Pero sa criminal law, na-accuse ka na mali, kambal mo pala yun, or nung pinasa yung batas na yon hindi pa pala crime, and then you weren't informed, fatal yon. So much so that meron ngang doctrine of the poisonous tree, di ba? That if yung evidence that were taken from you were illegally obtained, hindi pwedeng gamitin against you. Is my recollection of the law. You're a professor, so you continually review this. I don't continually review you do this, no, but I should, of course.
I agree, Senator.
Okay.
The rule is the exclusionary rule for violation of the right against
Yeah.
unreasonable searches.
I was
and
just
seizures.
emphasizing how important the procedural due process is because my next question, sinabi mo nga reasonable time, di ba? So
Reasonable opportunity po.
reasonable opportunity, which includes reasonable time, right?
Opo.
Because even if you can run to court, if you give the court 3 hours, 5 hours, 10 hours, it's not for us because wala namang Supreme Court regulation or batas na nagsasabing the writ of habeas corpus has to be issued in 12 hours or 1 day or etc. Diba? So you give reasonable time. So can I just interject one question kay General Torre? So sir, when you read the Miranda rights, did you explain the nature and cause of the of the crime that he's being accused of?
Yes, sir,
Yes.
it is on record and caught on video, sir.
Yeah, sorry about I don't know lang kasi about the record, so I'm not doubting you.
Yes, sir.
Ang napanood ko lang kasi yung standard Miranda rights that
Yes, sir.
you have. So, how did you read to him yung nature and cause? It's sa warrant or you...
Yes, sir, I read it
narrate-
from the warrant, sir. It
From
was
the warrant.
extracted from the warrant by the DOJ.
So, you read to him the warrant. Around
Yes, sir.
what time po yun? More or less.
Mga around before lunchtime, sir.
So, nung hinuli mo pa lang, binasa nyo na sa kanya yung warrant?
When
Kasi
we-
yung nakita namin video, sir, sa airport, the wife of former ES Miguel Dia was asking nga, di ba? And Ma'am Hanilet was also asking. At sinabi nyo, I don't know what you answered, but basically hindi nyo pa pinakita yung warrant nun, di ba?
Nung yung mga video na yun, sir, gabi na yun, sir. Tapos na ang lahat na yun, sir. Paulit-ulit na lang, inuulit-ulit
No,
na
what
lang
I
yun,
was
sir.
saying is that ang nakita kong video, yung
Yes.
palabas pa lang sila, and you were informing him naman na meron warrant, di ba?
Palabas sa tube, sir.
Sa tube, oo.
Nung palabas sa tube, sir, when the party of the former president is going out of the tube, doon, sir, sa mismong junction ng tube at saka yung moving junction, sir, ng tube, he was already met by PG, who attempted to read him his rights.
Okay.
And they said, wag na, pababain natin ang tension, doon na lang sa 250th.
Okay, so they attempted
wing,
to
sir.
read him his right, and dala nila yung warrant nun, hindi pa?
Yes, sir. Dala na, sir.
Dala na nila?
They will not
So yung
go out of
issue
the
na
plane.
walang dala, that's not true kasi dala nila?
Hindi sila lalabas sa plane, sir. Yun ang condition nila. Hindi kami lalabas sa plane pag wala yung warrant. And
So
it was
nandun
shown
yung
to them.
warrant. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So did you or any of the people who were serving the warrant explain to him the elements of the crime?
Yes, sir. The whole
So
warrant was actually given to them.
So just because it's simple naman, what are the elements of the crime against humanity na may murder? If you explain to him, then you can explain to me, di ba? So what's the elements?
During the time, sir, it was not me who attempted the reading of the rights. It was the prosecutor general.
Yes, sir. But sabi mo, you know the elements of the crime.
I read to him in toto what was written
Yes.
on the warrant, sir.
I read the warrant. Wala doon yung elements of the crime.
We did not say that I know the elements, sir. I just
Yes.
read to him exactly
So-
the charges in accordance with what is written in the
Yes, sir.
warrant.
I'm not arguing on the opinion and the legal kasi ito factual pa lang. But my point is, when you arrest a Filipino citizen for theft, for inciting to sedition, etc., meron po tayong legal maxim that ignorance of the law is not an excuse thereof. So, we are, as Filipino citizens, dapat alam natin yung law, di ba? So, pag inarrest mo yung isang tao, ano yan, bagransya. Sandali lang, sir. Na-repeal na yung bagransya, hindi na bata, ano yan. But, I'm arresting you for what? For theft. You don't need to read the elements because alam na ng Pilipino yung nature and yung cause nung theft. But, since this is a foreign court, and it's not even in the Rome Statute, yung elements. It was passed later on. So, ang point ko, was the accused, in this case, former president, aware of what he was being accused of? So, I'll stop there, sir. Factual lang naman, and I take your answer that it was the warrant was there, it was read to him, and there were different... I won't go to them now. I'm just making the point that even if you serve the warrant, kung hindi niya alam at hindi alam ng lawyer niya, how do you expect him to run to court to get legal remedy? So, going back, Attorney Alexis, sir, so is the ability to seek legal remedy part of due process? Meaning, if you deny me, if you're accusing me of something, my warrant of arrest, and you don't allow me to go to Philippine courts, is that denying you due process?
Absolutely, Your Honor. Without casting any aspersion on the character or competence of the officials involved.
Yeah, I'm asking
In
a
the-
general question. I think
the question
SOJ
that you
naman is
posed, yes.
listening and they will answer. So, going back to surrender. So, if my foreign court ngayon, I have it somewhere here, pasensya na kayo magulo. Senator Trillanes was saying in May 2024 na 3 batches of warrants to. First daw is si PRD, after that daw, Senator Bato, Senator Bongo, etc. And then sa third batch, military and police officials. So, I agree with Senator Bongo na wala na tayong magagawa in the sense na nandyan na si PRD. But I disagree na hindi importante itong hearing kasi kung may second, third, fourth batch pa yung warrants, it's important. And take note tama po ba ako, during the time that the Marawi uprising or the Marawi siege, Secretary Anyo, we were still under ICC noon, no? Kasi that was tama po, di ba? When we were in Russia. So you know, if a terrorist who survived goes to the ICC and shows them pictures of 19 women or children that were died and comes up with a witness and tells them, alam nyo, from President Duterte to Sec Anyo to the Chief of Staff to ganito, they planned this, they killed this ganito. it may be not true, it may be totally false. So if the ICC issues a warrant here, I want to make sure that every officer of the AFP has his day in court before they're sent to Hague. So valid itong hearing na to. As I said, may emotions lang, and let's excuse all of ourselves kung minsan may konting emotion, but we just want to clarify this. So yun yung context ng tanong ko, Attorney Alexis, no? So kung halimbawa may warrant for whatever for Juan de la Cruz, kinuha siya based on that warrant, pero hindi siya binigyan ng enough time or enough opportunity before a Philippine judge, aren't we denying him due process? Because pagdating dun sa foreign court, as SOJ said correctly, and I agree with him, iba language, iba procedure, and everything. So isn't a Filipino citizen, doesn't he have the right under the Constitution to be judged first by Philippine law before he's brought out to a foreign country or to an international tribunal to face what their interpretation of the law is?
If I may answer,
Yes.
Your Honor, if you look at the consistent policy of the Constitution, when there is a deprivation of liberty, the consistent policy of the Constitution is to involve the judiciary. The exclusion, complete exclusion of the judiciary in the deprivation of liberty of any citizen is anathema to the principles of the Constitution. And you can see that in the different provisions of the Constitution. You can see that in the requirements for the warrant of arrest, due process, liberty of abode, criminal proceeding, criminal due process, even in the period when the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus is suspended, the Constitution mandates the government to file charges against the person. So,
Ma'am, last two
always.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
Constitution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last
Thank
two
you.
questions or three, then opportunity for SOJ. No? So, yung pong, nagugulat ako kasi even those who claim to be human rights activists, pinopost nila to sa Facebook. Again, hindi ko nila lahat. I admire many human rights activists, but even some na very well known, no? If I'm not mistaken, even former Senator De Lima, more or less may ganitong tema. Bakit? Si Duterte ba may alam na due process nung pinatay silang mga to? Diba? Bakit siya ngayon humihingi ng due process? So, my next question is due process only for the innocent? Only for the saints? Or even, first of all, President Duterte is presumed innocent. But assuming 5 times na convicted drug lord, rapist, torturer, etc., nahuli ng PNP, under our Constitution, dapat ba may due process pa rin siya?
Yes, Your Honor, if you look at the text of the Constitution, there are no names that are excluded from its application.
So even if a person, whether he's a private citizen or government, is accused of not giving due process, that's the beauty of the Constitution, di ba?
Opo.
That everyone should be given due process.
Opo.
Oo. So I just want to make that clear kasi nga, sabi ni Secretary De Lima, walang due process sa kanya. But if you go before that, nung iniimbestigahan pa lang niya si President Duterte when she was CHR and she was DOJ, wala naman siyang final na kaso. So sabi naman ni President Duterte, nung mayor pa lang siya, wala akong due process. Sinasabi na niya na guilty ako. So nung siya naman yung naging presidente, eto naman nakulong, ang sinasabi naman niyang walang due process si Duterte. So ang point ko lang, if we as Filipinos do not demand due process for everyone, DOJ and the government is not saying that they denied, but I'm just saying, no, mali yung argument sa Facebook na pag ikaw hindi mo binigyan ng due process yung kalaban, ikaw hindi ka na pwedeng kumuha ng due process. Iba po yun. Meron doctrine sa batas that those to come to court should come with clean hands. That's a different application. Anyone can come to court asking for due process, di ba? I wanted to clear that up lang, and I ask you that, Dr. Alexis, for two reasons. One, attorney, because you're a constitutional law professor. Number two, if I ask SOJ, baka ispin nung iba and they tell na meron o wala si Duterte. I'm not talking about Duterte, I'm talking about every single Filipino deserves due process. Okay. My next question is, will the Interpol, or I don't want you to make a judgment sa Interpol, no? If any foreign entity, no, comes to us and asks for an arrest, is it non-cooperation with them if we say, may provisional arrest, we have him in custody, but a Philippine judge has to decide whether or not we can turn him over to you?
If I may, Your Honor, international conventions actually respect compliance with the domestic laws. Even the Rome Statute, in the cooperation, the requirement is application of the laws of the country, of the custodial state. So it's up to the custodial state how to comply. There is no issue that we should comply with all these international obligations. That's not the dispute. The dispute is how to comply. And the manner of compliance is governed primarily, of course, by the Constitution, the highest law of the land.
And that's precisely why the diffusion notice stated provisional arrest or extradition, because so this is the parallelism of what I want to make. If the ICC knows na pwedeng provisional arrest or pwedeng extradition, they give it sa Interpol, hindi naman magagalit ang Interpol kung nagbigay silang red notice at ang sagot mo sa Interpol, we have him under custody but we cannot release him to you unless a Philippine court so orders, or unless we give him enough time to seek legal remedy. Because of course, if the person doesn't seek legal remedy, para na rin niyang sinurrender. Because the whole argument is that we're just helping Interpol. So I just wanted to clear that up. And again, ang hirap ng Facebook o media interview kasi hindi nakakasagot yung kabilang side. Eto, we can, I'll stop there, Madam Chair. So the point I want to make, and this is my personal stand, and I hope in a less emotional and more academic setting also, Mr. Secretaries, we can determine that, because part of life, liberty, and ano ba yung ginamit natin? Iba kasi yung sa US, di ba? Sila may pursuit of happiness. Tayo, life, liberty, and property is the peace of mind. Di ba? The peace of mind na dito, at least sa bansa ko, siyempre, hindi mo kontrolado kriminal. Diyan pumapasok, Sir Marbil, yung peace and order, assurance, etc. But at least alam ko, hindi ako pwedeng biglang arestuhin dito tapos i-try wherever, di ba? Pero kung in doubt yon, di ba? So, for example, feel free to judge Senator Bato, but I made the same statement as the Senate President that if he's in the Senate, even if beyond 6 years yung kakasuhan sa kanya, kung hindi pa nagde-decide ang Supreme Court what constitutes surrender, etc., and he seeks legal remedy, we should give, under reasonable circumstances, sanctuary to him. We did that sa Batasan 5. I mean, I've never be pro, hindi ko na alam kung anong word ang gagamitin kasi baka sabihin red tagging, di ba? But the progressive left or whatever, di ba? During the time of President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, we were together, Secretary, di ba, na we weren't looking at their ideology, we weren't looking at guilty ba sila o hindi, we were looking at the institution and the, what you call this, the balancing ba na pag medyo sigurado na legal yung pag-arrest, etc., tayo mismo kumakausap sa kanila na lumabas na kayo dito. I think that's what happened with Senator De Lima. No? I'll stop there. Napakaraming issues. Mamaya pa na factual ang tanong ko. But, Madam Chair, if we can give the DOJ an opportunity to respond. Thank you very much, Attorney.
If you allow me, thank you very much, Attorney Medina. Thank you very much, Senator Cayetano. Before we go back to Secretary Remulla, if you will allow me, I have someone online, and given the difference in time, I'd appreciate inviting her. We'd like to recognize the Vice President, Sara Duterte, please, online.